Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. You know, I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm a little sad that Al Ewing's run on The Incredible Hulk is gonna be ending relatively soon, because Al Ewing's run on the Hulk is one of these weird things, right? Like, if you're not a fan of Al Ewing's writing style, you're gonna hate the Hulk. But if you love Al Ewing's writing style, you're gonna love the Hulk. It's one of these things where there really isn't an in-between here. It's kind of divisive, right? It doesn't mean people hate it. It simply just means that it's not necessarily for them, right? So, what we're doing here is we're covering this kind of one-shot called Time of Monsters, right? Which is this kind of, one of these stories where it looks like it's introducing a new version of the Hulk. That seems to be the case, and it's really cool, right? So what this does is this whole story takes place about 9,500 years before the modern day, and what it looks like is it's the very first host of the One Below All, right? The very first person to ever really be exposed to his power and to really take it on in its full totality. Now, what you end up doing here is picking up with a kid by the name of Tammuz, and basically the leader of a local village. And the way this is kind of told is that at some point in their early days, like a lot of primitive cultures, they worshipped essentially a goddess, right? And this idea was that the land they lived in was lush and green, and it was beautiful, and there were all kinds of animals and plants and things for them to feed and feast and so on and so forth. But ultimately, all they did was consume, and they never gave anything back. And so as time passed, the land began to become barren. It began to lose its rich water deposits. The various animals that existed there were either completely consumed or fled. And this was interpreted by the tribe as being punishment by the goddess for the fact that they just never gave to her the way they were supposed to, that all they did was took and they never gave back. And so the result of this is you have what's kind of called the green light, right? And it's almost like this pit that exists down there. And what happens is seemingly people are sacrificed to it. Now, Tammuz seems like one of these kids, or really the part of the generation, and that usually happens with each passing generation. They fall less and less in line with the particular religious beliefs of the generation before them. And so this is no different. And what you end up having here is Tammuz kind of comes forward, or not really comes forward, but word has reached the ears of the village elder that he doesn't really hold the faith the way other people do, right? His faith is as described as having faltered, right? That he believes that the village elder is essentially rattled, that he's losing his mind, that things need to change and things need to progress, but he's holding on to the way things used to be. And so the result of this is that Tammuz has basically been chosen as a sacrifice. Now, there's going to be a lot of duplicity that goes on here that'll actually be established later on, but ultimately, Tammuz is kicked inside this pit. And when he's sacrificed to this kind of green eye, which literally starts tearing his body apart, right? It's almost like it just kind of absorbs him in the sense that it's almost like a gravity well, right? It just kind of starts sucking him in and ripping the flesh from his bones in a pretty gruesome way. And then he's completely consumed by it, right? Kind of consumed by this green eye, as they call it. And when that happens, the green door opens. Now, for those of you guys who are just joining us with regards to the Incredible Hulk stuff, one, I highly suggest you check out the playlist down in the description to get caught up on everything related to the Immortal Hulk. But two, as a kind of quick run over here, the green door is essentially an access point, right? And it's almost like a door of the chosen. So when a particular individual out there dies and they've been exposed to gamma radiation, which is essentially the case here, right? If anything, this is probably more like a gamma meteorite, right? Or some kind of artifact that's been exposed to gamma radiation somewhere along the line, that when a person's been exposed to gamma and they basically die, the green door opens, which takes them to the realm of the One Below All if they choose to pass through it. And when that happens, Tammuz is essentially taken to the realm of the One Below All. Now, what we end up getting here is this kind of explanation, right? Something that goes on with regards to his friend. Now, his friend is a kid by the name of Shalim, who's actually the son of the village elder himself. And the way this played out is that at some point in the past, Tammuz's mother actually died, and he was more or less adopted by the village elder, who kind of took him on as something akin to a son. It's not necessarily one of these exact things where he is a biological son. It's more just kind of an adoption process. But the important thing is that Shalim has kind of an uneasy feeling about what's going on with Tammuz, that he's kind of out and about, seemingly doesn't really know where he is, and the concern is almost kind of this ache in his stomach that something's happened to him. Now, when his father returns home, of course, he asks him, like, do you know where Tammuz is? And his answer is no. Like, why do you ask? And that's when Shalim picks up on the fact that he's done something to him. Now, when he goes to attack his dad immediately, just kind of knocks him down, refers to him as a milksop, basically a colloquial term for somebody who's weak or incapable of handling themselves in any real measurable way, that has to like rely on others for help and things like that. And so the result of this is that one of the hunters comes running back and talks of a beast that has appeared in the woods in an area near scare the tribe, and that it'll basically be enough, because of its size, it'll be enough to feed them for quite some time. And so what you end up doing is switching over to Tammuz, who's basically re-emerged as a Hulk-like monster. And it's one of these funny things, because even though he's here traditionally as what we would call a Hulk, he's not here with nefarious purposes. Instead, in being here, he's realized certain things. That one, there's actually water below ground, and if the water can be irrigated, then it'll be enough for the tribe to be able to sustain themselves, to grow crops, different things like that. Presumably, animals will return to this place, and it's a way to kind of turn it back into a lush environment. And that's what he starts doing, right? He literally starts tearing through the ground trying to get to this water. And so because of that, he looks pretty badass. I mean, to the average person who sees him, he looks wildly monstrous and almost like a demon entity. And that's how the village members treat him. That when he emerges, he's trying to talk to them, trying to have a conversation with him, but all that comes out are just garbled growls. And in his frustration, he lashes out, much like we've seen with the Incredible Hulk do with regards to people who are kind of moving against him. And so the result of this is that he's essentially killed by an arrow, which is fired by Shalim, not knowing that it's Tammuz. But ultimately, he ends up coming across the corpse, and then he sees a tattoo or a birthmark on his body and realizes that it's Tammuz, that he's somehow been changed or modified or altered. And so the result of this is that when he kind of dies and he falls back to the realm of the One Below All, that essentially he's kind of met by the One Below All himself. And when this happens, the One Below All kind of tells him, like, you bear my mark, right? Like, I turn my face towards you, I am the One Below All. And he says, with these hands I break, with this mouth I howl, my weapon is hate. And the reality is, Tammuz felt betrayed by his own tribe. And so when that happens, he basically says, like, so is mine, right? He's basically bound by vengeance here. And so that's what's kind of crazy, is because following that, they actually end up feasting on the body of Tammuz in his Hulk form, you know, and just kind of like literally eating all parts of him. And that's when the village elder kind of stands up and says, like, this beast was brought here as a bounty to us, right? It was brought to us here by the goddess, right? She gave it to us, and that we destroyed it and we killed it. So it means that she still cares about us. It's a gift. She's simply just testing us, right? She's putting us through these paces with this harsh environment because she wants to make sure that we're worthy. Whatever excuse he chooses to use to, one, essentially maintain his own position, and two, to keep things as they are. The other thing that happens is that as they continue to go through and to consume this corpse, that Shalim does not, but he also begins to notice that one of the eyes is starting to open up, right? That it's just slightly open. And that's when he tells his father, like, no, like, do not eat this thing, but they consume it anyway, right? They're consuming the gift of the goddess that's been given to them in the hope that by consuming the gift that she's given, they're essentially offering, right? They're giving something back. They're showing appreciation. And then in turn, their realm will start to kind of grow back to the way that it was before, that, you know, life will return, so on and so forth. And they can go back to no longer living such a harsh and terrible life. The exact opposite happens, that as they consume this corpse, it literally starts to destroy them, right? It starts to kill them and break them all down until essentially the eye completely opens and Tammuz starts to reform, right? Because now he's essentially an immortal Hulk, given that gift by the One Below All. Like, he literally starts to grow, starts to reform, and then turns his vengeance to Shalim. Now, for his part, Shalim really didn't know that it was Tammuz. Like, he really had no idea that it was his best friend that he had essentially killed, right? Even his brother, if we're being honest with ourselves, he didn't realize that he had fired the arrow in his own friend's eye and essentially brought him to an end. But ultimately, the response of Tammuz is, I don't care, right? Like, you know, in one of these instances, he kind of has essentially the voice of the One Below All kind of speaking into his mind, saying, like, you will never be rid of your vengeance, right? You'll never be rid of your anger and your wrath. That will always be a part of you, right? That's going to be who you are forevermore. And so the result of this is that he basically kills Shalim. Now, the reason why this matters, this is one of the reasons why this story is so cool, is because following that, he just goes forward out into the world. He doesn't die, right? He's not killed by Shalim. It's not like Shalim, you know, has to kill his own friend again and then kind of go forward from there. Like, it literally says Tammuz leaves the village alone, right? Like, he's the only person that emerges from this place. Presumably, he's going to show up and probably face off against the Immortal Hulk, which would be cool. I don't really know what name to give this guy. Maybe like the Demon Hulk or something like that, which is kind of a cool name because he looks like a demonic character, right? He looks like a demonic being. And unlike the Immortal Hulk, which is just kind of a manifestation from Bruce Banner and is still in a lot of ways a relative good guy depending on the circumstance, but doesn't really intend to cause harm to other people, Tammuz seems to be the exact same way, right? Like the Hate Hulk. That's basically what he is. Like, he's literally bound by hate and vengeance, and that's it, right? He's just going forward. It's kind of like this force of violence, this force of seemingly entropy. So with that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.